Northern Ontario is nothing if not resourceful. That's evident in some of the strategies that businesses and cities are using to retain and attract people to the region. With us now for more, from our studio at Confederation College in Thunder Bay, our Northwest Ontario Hub editor, John Thompson. From our studio at Laurentian University in Sudbury, our Northeast Ontario Hub editor, Claude Sharma. And here in our studio, Jeyan Jeganathan, our Ontario Hub's field producer. And it's good to have you three Hubmeisters with us again today. Jeyan, without further ado, let's throw to the piece that you've put together to get us off to the races here, okay?
All right.
Sheldon, if you would.
I said, what do you do for a living? I play video games. That's what I do. You know, there's a lot to it, I mean, because it's real. There's no reset.
While Carl Johnson's workstation might look like an arcade game with its joystick, foot pedals, and screen, what he's really up to might surprise you.
Right now I'm mucking 1245 meter level at Musselwhite Mine.
Johnson worked inside mines for 25 years, but he spent the last several months above ground digging remotely at this station, Goldcorp's Integrated Remote Operating Centre in Thunder Bay, Ontario, 500 kilometers south of Musselwhite Mine, one of the largest gold mines in Canada. Carl is a mucker, which means he uses a scoop to shovel broken rock and ore, also known as muck, after blasting. From the comfort of this room, he can move thousands of tons of rocks.
At any time, our operators in Thunder Bay can take control of a scoop and run it. They can switch over to another scoop on a different level in the mine, literally by pressing a button.
The room is furnished with 4 control chairs, and remote operators like Carl can access up to 10 scoops at the Musselwhite site. They can also control rock breakers, loaders, and conveyor belts. The whole operation is made possible by a dedicated fiber optic line that runs from Thunder Bay to the mine 500 kilometers away.
This allows us to continue operating sort of full around the clock and being able to move material and machines when we just can't have people underground due to blast gases.
Kevin Schiller is the automation coordinator at the Remote Operating Center. He's responsible for making sure everything is running smoothly. He and his dispatchers can follow the movements of every vehicle and person in the mine through these screens.
500, they keep geo-calling it.
Less than a year ago, Kayla was deep in the mines, working as a trucker and scoop operator, a far cry from the air-conditioned office she works in now.
It's very dusty and hot and a lot of vibration. Even just walking through a puddle, you could break your ankle. You don't see a rock, very uneven ground. You're climbing into big pieces of equipment that are wet and greasy and oily.
Automating parts of the mine have also helped with travel times for the miners. With a ramp nearly 15 kilometers long, workers have to drive for over an hour into the mine to get to where they start their shift. Work also stops when they use explosives to break down rock for excavation.
There are still muckers and truckers down there. We're aiming to do most of our mucking in between shifts with teleremote, so that the scoop operator's not jumping in and out of his scoop and exposing himself to all the hazards down there. And
the crew at Musselwhite Mine work on a 2-week in, 2-week out rotation. With the mine being a fly-in operation, workers are flown in and out every other week.
You live in a bunkhouse, you're in a little, tiny 8x10 room for 2 weeks, and there's lots of other people around you. You have to be quiet. You're limited to where you can go if you want to go for a walk in the evening.
Flight delays, airports, away from your family for 2 weeks. Come back, you're a stranger sometimes. Like when I first started it was like, holy moly, like I don't know if I can do this, because it's like you're a stranger in your own house when you go back. It's different.
Kevin Schiller worked in mines in the territories for over a decade before his current position at Goldcorp.
Yeah, I have a son and a daughter. They only knew me to be away. They were born while I worked on the 2 and 2, and they never knew any different. So the activities as my children age, I'm able to attend hockey games and soccer matches and gymnastics and things like that I would have to miss based on being at work.
Automation is nothing new to Schiller, but he says this scale of automation is new for northwestern Ontario. Schiller says Goldcorp plans to have autonomous trucks driving through its tunnels in the future.
Because this is going to be a regular business for a mining company. It just has to be the efficiency gains and the benefits of protecting the people just far outweigh the traditional methods that we've been doing in the past.
Fascinating. Great piece, JJ. What made this story noteworthy for you that you wanted to tell it so much?
Well, just looking at it, the technology alone is impressive, but I think the three things that I kind of looked at was safety, productivity, efficiency, and cost. Safety, we looked at it, with mining, you associate, the nicks, the injuries that could possibly happen. Being in an office with an air conditioner going on, that's probably, maybe getting a cold is maybe one of the few things that you can get. Yep. When you look at productivity and efficiency, they're able to work around the clock. So during shift changes, when they have meetings or something like that, where they're not able to be in the mine, or if you're driving hours into the mine, these are hours that could be used more efficiently. So here we are, we're able to kind of get to our mucking when we need to. When we look at costs, this is one that I looked at. For every person that is up at the Musselwhite mine site, they have about $40,000 a year associated with them. That's housing, travel, any services that they have for them. You take, at the Musselwhite mine site, what they want to do is move 60 people from that site to this new facility. 60 people, $40,000, that's $2.4 million a year in savings. That was quite impressive. So those are just a few of the things that I thought.
Right on. Let's keep mucking around in this subject, if I can use that word here. John Thompson, this is all up in your neck of the woods. What's your take on it?
Well, I think it's really impressive when you look at what they've done in a fairly short period of time, working with remote work. I think the potential down the road is really what's exciting for Northern Ontario. If the mining boom swings in the next generation as much as we're expecting it to, with the Ring of Fire and further expected rises in the value of gold, I think there's major implications, specifically for Thunder Bay and for quality of life for the people who work in that situation.
Indeed. John, let me follow up with you, because you did talk to Carl Johnson as well. And Carl's the guy at the end there who was telling us he's 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out, he comes home, he sometimes feels like a stranger. He's doing what we traditionally thought of as blue-collar work, but he doesn't think of himself that way, right?
Well, that's what he said to me. He says, I'm a white-collar worker at last, he says, laughing. And I think what's interesting about that and a number of other positions and stories that we're publishing on tvo.org today is that there isn't a great deal of white-collar work, if you will, in Thunder Bay. Traditionally, it's manufacturing. Lately, we've seen a great rise in government work and retail work, but there isn't a whole lot of an anchor for white-collar business work. And so I've been talking to a number of people who are basically making it back home in order to do what it is that they do, even though that economy doesn't really exist here.
Jeyan, let me come back to you on this. Did any of the workers that you talked to express any concerns that the increasing automation of their workplace is ultimately going to be trouble for them?
Yes, and she works there now. So Kayla Shepard said when they started talking about the remote operating center that she thought, oh, this is the start of us losing all our jobs. She now works there as a communications supervisor. And she said, and Kevin Schiller as well with Goldcorp told me, you have to take it with a grain of salt. They said so far that, no one has lost their job. What they've done so far is they've plucked people from the mine. Carl, Kayla, Kevin himself all worked at the mine a few months ago and have been plotted into the remote operating center. The thing is, what they're trying to do is they're training people. Carl is 58 years old. He's been mining for 25 years. He's operated a mucker and a truck, but he's never operated that machine. So what they've done is they've trained everyone, and they're willing to train people. That's what they tell me. But at the end of the day, we'll always have miners in mines. When these robots are damaged or broken, there have to be people there to fix it.
Sure, but part of the story is that more people are coming to Thunder Bay, coming to the city, and John, I'll go back to you on this. What other things potentially are going to bring people to Thunder Bay?
Well, one of the things that's starting to bring people to Thunder Bay is just the fact that you can work remotely. And this isn't unique to anywhere, really. The communications technology that's available now allows people to do work in software and consulting and various other types of jobs, basically from wherever they are. And my job is included in that, a laptop and a cell phone, and I'm at work. And so I interviewed a couple of gentlemen in their mid-30s who had developed careers in Toronto and were, in one case, managing a team of 12 based in Toronto, and yet living back home in Thunder Bay. Again, and that's in a situation where the type of work that they do is simply not available, has never been available here.
Interesting. Okay, let's move to northeastern Ontario. And Claude, I want to do a little comparing and contrasting here, because you've got a story up on the website today, tvo.org, about Smooth Rock Falls, which is population 1,330 people. And yet we're making some comparisons here to Thunder Bay, which is population north of 100,000 people. Go ahead, tell us the story.
So what the story is about is in regards to the biggest industry in Smooth Rock Falls. It's Tembec Pulp Mill, closing down back in 2006. And we've seen a lot of these plants close down throughout northeastern Ontario, northwestern Ontario. So in that time, since 2006, and even before that, 10 years before that, Smooth Rock Falls was experiencing population decreases throughout the years. So come last year, the year before, City Council got proactive and said, you know what, it's time to bring people back to the community instead of out of it. And so they have this ambitious plan, and it seems to be working quite well so far.
Well, tell us more about that. What was the strategy to get people to move to Smooth Rock Falls?
So it was kind of a national launch. They offered surplus lots owned by the city. It comes with conditions, of course. So if you were to buy a lot in Smooth Rock Falls, and build a house there within 2 years, you could own that lot, that property, for just $500. And there are similar incentives too for businesses that they buy commercial, industrial lots. Those businesses would receive similar incentives, tax rebates. But one thing I think that's somewhat being lost in all of this is that no one has purchased these residential lots yet. The business lots, several have, but it's just a promotion Smooth Rock Falls has been getting from all of this. Smooth Rock Falls, it may sound very isolated, but it's not. Okay,
let me do one more with you, Claude. North Bay has also weighed in here with some ideas to get the population moving larger as opposed to smaller. What's up with them?
Well, I think like North Bay with other cities in northeastern Ontario, they're facing some challenges in regards to immigration policies. A lot of the immigration policies favor the cities down south. There's also some red tape when it comes to opening businesses. But what North Bay is doing, and it's kind of another ambitious plan, is they hope to get 10,000 newcomers over the next 10 years. And one thing they're rolling out this year, it's called Invest North Bay, and they've invested $1 million into this program. And they're getting people from the North Bay and area, minorities, to go down south, kind of a recruiting team, and pick up people from the 905, from the 416, and tell them, you know what, there are plenty of jobs in North Bay that need to be filled. They're short on mechanics, the skilled labor force. There's a huge shortage in North Bay and in northeastern Ontario. And there's still some existing businesses. People want to retire, but there's no one to hand it off to. So maybe they can pluck a family, multiple families that come up, and already there's a business there for them. And there's already housing in North Bay where they can live.
Jeyan, we've been talking about the Ring of Fire in this province for a decade, if not more. And so far, it's been slow going. Mm-hmm. How long do you think before we see any impact from that affecting the economy of the province?
We're talking possibly a whole generation. John had mentioned it off the top. We know that the infrastructure costs are very high getting in there, whoever goes in there. When we look at roads, we look at rail, we look at power. So when I look at a technology like what Goldcorp has done, and you're able to operate a remote facility and have someone doing the mucking remotely, it's going to help your bottom line. And so those high infrastructure costs that you have at the start will be paid off very quickly. So I think, when we look at the Ring of Fire and the development that's slated there, we have to look at, how are we going to be able to do it? This is possibly one of the ways that we can get that done.
John, let me give you the last word on this, because again, this is your neck of the woods. What's the talk in northwestern Ontario about how hopeful people are that the Ring of Fire is actually going to happen relatively soon?
Well, I think for now, the municipalities of northwestern Ontario are concentrating on this question of an aging population and trying to replace that population to sustain the size of the economy. Steve, you've had Northern Policy Institute President Charles Sirtwill on your show before, talking about how Thunder Bay, the district of 150,000 people, is going to need 50,000 immigrants by 2041 just to sustain the size size of the economy now, never mind the impact of a potential enormous historic mining boom. And so what we're looking at now as municipalities is how do we start having people come in by the thousands when they're now coming in by the 100 or 200s to this region. But it's also important to say that this trend of youth out migration that it has been tracked by our municipal leaders since the early 1970s, we are starting to see technology being able to bring those people home. And that is a big part of culture in Northern Ontario. People like the quality of life. That's as Claude said, that is what they're selling to come and live here. And so they're starting in some cases with the generation of young people who left for school and experience and want to come home.
And that is a great and positive development. Guys, thanks so much for coming on TVO again tonight and helping us out with this. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Steve.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.